Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy, Atypical Security Guard. I am on my way to work right now, so you're not going to see anything on the camera. Just listen to what I have to say. This is a very important message. So, the other day, we did our live stream where we talked about the shooting that happened in Encino, California. Young security guard, although they said that he'd been working in the industry for, I think, close to 10 years, responds to a call, an alarm call, ends up taking a shot and hitting the homeowner. Uh, from what I have read and seen online, initially released, and then at some point in time over the last couple of days, allegedly was arrested. But I do believe that he has since been released again. More than likely, this is something that might be sent to a grand jury, and they will let them make the decision. Which I'm actually surprised with it being California. Also, with this coming on the heels of the new gun control measure SB2 that had gone through, but that's a different conversation for a different day. What I want to talk about today is understanding the difference between training and indoctrination. And the situation that happened in Encino, California, it perfectly lines up with a lot of the industry talk that we're hearing right now about the concealed carry insurance community, right? This would be USCCA, US Law Shield versus attorneys on retainer. There was a situation where a YouTuber, I can't remember his name, he and a fellow, I don't want to say accomplice, but another guy, basically are going to do a prank. They're going to film it. They're going to put it online, something that's very popular right now with the youngins. They contact like an Uber Eats guy or a DoorDash guy, and they have him meet them at the mall. This young man shows up to deliver the food. And when he gets to the area, the two people that are performing the prank, they're putting a phone up to the guy's face, and I still can't remember what it's even saying. It's saying something weird, and the guy's uncomfortable. They continue to approach the guy after he gives them several directives to leave him alone, and then ultimately he shoots them in what he says is self-defense. Now, this is where it gets tricky because the thought process of most people that have concealed carry insurance, and I think that the way that it's marketed through USCCA and other companies, is that if you're in a quote unquote self-defense shooting, that you're paying for a coverage and they will take care of your legal bills. Well, the fine print, and something that USCCA has also been very transparent about, is that they cannot, as an insurance company, insure crime, right? What they don't do is what I think is a good enough job of explaining that, if you are convicted of any crime, if you take any sort of plea deal, then that can void the insurance coverage, and then they're not responsible for covering your lawyer's fees or taking care of the effort to defend you in court. I think they do a very poor job of explaining that. They're kind of expecting people to have a rational understanding of how insurance works, but a lot of young people and a lot of people in the 2A community just unfortunately aren't that well educated on these things. Okay, so that has created a big rift in the 2A community. There's tons of videos right now where high level YouTubers, gun tubers if you will, are coming after USCCA. USCCA has made several videos responding to the accusations that they don't cover their clients, that they're a scam, allegedly. And then this company, attorneys on retainer, has really moved to the forefront, because what they're saying is that we are not an insurance company. We are, simply lawyers on retainer. And if you are in a situation where, you feel that you were justified, even if ultimately you're convicted of something, we will defend you. So what is my point in bringing all that up? There is a huge issue in the 2A community, and I'm seeing this more and more in the security guard space, where people are misconstruing training and indoctrination. There's a huge difference between training and indoctrination, right? So as security guards, we are not doing a good enough job. Well, I'm going to take myself out of that conversation because I'm doing a hell of a job of it. I'm having this video right here, right now, and I talk about it all the time. But too many of the other influential security guard channels that are out there that are pushing training that are maybe selling courses, that are maybe, you know, connected to people that are selling courses. They're not doing a good enough job, in my opinion, of explaining the rationale and the implementation of certain techniques. What techniques would that be? That would be CQB, that would be defensive tactics, that would be, self-defense. I have videos on defensive tactics. I have videos on, room clearing. These are classes that I have taken, and these are instructions and instructors that have worked with me. I film that and then put that out there. That information is for educational purposes, but at the same time, it's a 50-50 split. As much as I come on and talk about the importance of going to the gun range, as much as I, have shared and have on my platform information on defensive tactics, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I talk about going to some of these famous trainers, Mike Glover, Warrior Poet, all of these people, classes that I've paid thousands of dollars to attend. I also spend a large amount of my time explaining the implementation of any of these things and the liability that is going to befall on you if you do it and you're not justified. At the end of the day, no matter how much training you get, and we all talk about the lack of training, it dawned on me with this situation with this guy that took the shot with this lady in California. We all talk about the lack of training. Hey, there's no lack of training, or there's no training. There's a lack of training on defensive tactics. There's a lack of training on handcuffing. There's a lack of training on when to pull your firearm. There's a lack of training on what to do if there's an active shooter. There's a lack of training on what to do if you have to clear a building. The reason why, and this just dawned on me the other day, the reason why that training doesn't exist is because that is not the scope of our work. Now, me and a lot of you and a lot of other security YouTubers out there who are trying to make a difference, we see that gap. If you work at these sites long enough, a day, it doesn't take long for you to look around and go, man, like if something happens and I'm here and I'm the guy with the gun, I'm assuming the people that have hired me are expecting me to help. I have the moral obligation to do the right thing and to help the people that are here. Maybe it would be good for me to know how to clear this room, how to get around this corner, how to get into this stairwell if I needed to do that, right? And so the natural rationalization is, why wouldn't the state who is certifying security guards or my company who's hired me to be here, why wouldn't either of them take it up to help train me to do that more effectively? And the simple answer is they don't want you to do it. It's just like when I had the conversation yesterday about the school shooting. We have school shooting after school shooting after school shooting after school shooting. The first school shooting that I can remember was when I was in high school in the 90s. So that's 90s, that's 2000s, that's 2010s, that's 2020s. We're in the fourth decade that I can personally remember of school shootings. Now, no matter what happens in the end of no matter how the person is finally taken out of the equation, the cops have always had to get there. I don't think there's been one school shooting where the police have actually been on the scene when the situation happened. Now, the people on the left will continually tell you that we have to do something, we have to protect the kids, it's all about the kids, we've got to protect the kids, protect the kids, protect the kids, protect the kids, but they've yet to put someone in the position to be at the schools to protect the kids. Why? Because ultimately, they don't want to do anything to stop what is happening. Guys, that is a very morbid and scary thing to realize, that your government has no intention of saving kids' lives. And if you're working in the security industry, that is a very frightening and chilling thing to realize, that your company and your state do not care what happens to you or the people in that building. If a mass shooter comes in, if a crazed maniac comes in, ultimately what they want from the company standpoint is to make all of the money, pay you a very small fraction of it, and then hope to God that nothing happens. Now, we live in America. This is a capitalist society. That's the game that we all sign up for. If you don't like that, don't be a security guard. If you can't come to terms with the reality that I just laid out to you, don't become a security guard. Because if you take that CQB class, if you enroll in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, if you take Gunfighter 1, Gunfighter 2, and all of these super cool classes that, to the instructor's credit, I understand that they're not going to sit and drawn out conversation about how that applies to you working private security. These guys who were forward operators, these guys who are law enforcement, people that kick in doors for a living, that is the reality that they live in. That is not your reality. Guys, if you went to a porn site and we're talking to the big dick dude that's famous for piping chicks down and he tells you how he has sex, that ain't your reality. Don't take that shit home thinking that that's how you're going to go and handle business. That ain't you. That's a very crass example, but that's real fucking talk. So I think that it is so important for us to take these classes. I think it is so important for us to have this knowledge because our life is not just in the security industry and our life is not just at work. I love knowing about CQB because I have a home and I have a family. I love knowing about defensive tactics because I live my life where that might be a situation that I have to deal with, right? A very true reality. But we have to understand that there's a difference between learning these things and then being indoctrinated into the people's reality that's teaching us. We are not forward operators. We're not SWAT team. We're not cops. And the reality is that all of the people that are involved above us, they don't want us doing anything. And the second that gun breaks leather and comes out of your holster, you are starting a series of events that you cannot take back. Now, that officer that was involved in the shooting in California, if he is not prosecuted, if he is not convicted, if he's not found guilty, I can assure you that what he did was not in policy, and more than likely he will be left out to dry by his company when that homeowner goes to sue him, the company, and a whole host of other people. And these are the things that don't make the news. We see the story. We follow it for 4 days. We hear that the person was either arrested or released. And then we go, okay, well, that person, suffered the consequences or that person got off. And then that narrative becomes a narrative that people on YouTube, whether they're in the industry or they're in the comments, they hold that up as case law. Well, Encino guy went to a house and he saw what he thought was someone flashing a flashlight at him, and he inadvertently shot her and he wasn't prosecuted. Therefore, I can do the exact same thing. And I keep telling you guys, buyer beware. We do not know any of the reasons why people are prosecuted or why they're let go. But what I can tell you is that on a long enough timeline, I would not test that theory too many times. And I wouldn't want any one of you to have to find out the hard way and be the person that pulls the short straw. We are being indoctrinated into thinking that this run and gun style of tactics is legitimate for what we're doing. It's not. You need to know it. I encourage all of you guys to take these classes, as many as you can. The better trained you are, the better skilled you are, the better you will be able to do your job if and only if you have the emotional maturity and the common sense and knowledge of when and only when to implement it. That is the difference between indoctrination and education. Knowing what to do in certain situations. That is education. Knowing when to employ it or when to utilize it. That is education. But if you're just watching videos, going to classes, listening to people who are not in the security industry, who work in other forms of enforcement where they have backing of the state, a union behind them, hundreds of millions of dollars of insurance and legal teams behind them. If you're listening to that and thinking that you can do that, you are being indoctrinated. And you can't afford it. Just going through the preliminary issues of a criminal case or a civil case, $250,000, guys. You'll never recover from that. Your kids will be paying on your bill. But, as always, I'm going to tell you this stuff, and somebody else is going to come right in behind me and say, nope, that ain't true. And nope, you need to have your gun out. And nope, you need to do this, and you need to do that. You got to be aggressive. You got to get to the point. You got to get off the X. You got to be ready. I'm just here to offer my opinion. What do I know? I barely graduated high school. I'm not the sharpest tool in the box. I don't know everything. I served in the military, but I wasn't a forward operator. I've been in law enforcement, but I was never a cop. So maybe I'm just talking out of my ass, okay? So take my advice, slow down, get the training, learn the tactics, understand the theory, but for God's sakes, understand the game that we are playing as security guards and know that these companies don't give a fuck and they will let you hang the second you pull that gun out if it's not justified. And justification is subjective based on where you are and who's looking at it and who's making the call. All right? That is your morning debrief. As always, I care about you guys. I appreciate you guys. I just want you to be safe. And I just want all of us to stop making it hard for us to continue to have this avenue to work, provide, and help out. And if we keep doing these things, it ain't going to be here much longer. That is my morning address. You guys be safe, and as always, be great. Take care.